Welcome back, Toastmasters and guests. We now enter into the manual presentation portion of our meeting. This evening, we have two manual presentations for you. The first will be done by yours truly, and the second by our very own Toastmaster, Angela. To get the first started, allow me to introduce myself. I am Edward Young, an IT professional living here in Belize. I enjoy playing chess, cycling, basketball, and RPGs, that's role-playing games. So Christmas Day will be spent online playing role-playing games. My presentation this evening is about Belize's Blue Bond. What is Belize's Blue Bond? Well, being the young nation that we are, like most young people, we weren't very good with money. And our little country wrapped up a debt of $4.3 billion. And that's US dollars. For us, that meant a 23 million US payment every quarter. That was taxing on Belize's small economy. For most of us, for some of us, it was the best of time, but for the majority of us, it was the worst of time. Why is this? When the country of Belize has to pay out $23 million US every quarter, it hits our financial reserve. When it hits our financial reserve, the commercial industry cannot purchase any goods or equipment. What does that mean? We do not have a manufacturing or industrial economy. We rely mostly on imports for goods and services. Most of everything we need in Belize, we import. And for that, we need foreign reserves. And if our government is paying out $23 million US every quarter, for a small nation like Belize, that's a lot. Goods became scarce in the stores, and that caused inflation to go up. What used to cost about $25 started costing $3.75 from $1.25. We were being hurt. And as not being an industrial economy, we relied primarily on tourism. What happened? The pandemic. That made situations for Belize even more dire. There were no tourists coming to Belize. The entire world was in a lockdown for a period of time. That further hurt our small economy. We were in a bind. And then someone had the bright idea that we can overcome this. And this was largely how the last election in Belize went. We had the major topic was, how will we address our debt? How will we build our foreign reserve? Hence, the Blue Bond came into play. The Blue Bond allowed Belize, which has tremendous rainforests, a large portion of our country, 2/3 of our country, is undeveloped and it's rainforest. We had to agree that there would be no more logging or cutting down of our rainforest. There will be no more development of our rainforest, and countries around the world would pay us to keep our rainforest pristine. This will help in global warming. And that was a key talking point in one of the UN's meetings. Therefore, Belize Blue Bond caught wind. Countries were lining up around the world to pay us to keep our rainforest pristine. Wait, Belize has the second largest barrier reef in the world and the largest living barrier reef. However, beneath our barrier reef is an extraordinary large pool of crude oil. So for us not to damage our barrier reef, for us not to go drilling for that crude oil to pay off our debt, countries around the world are also paying us to keep our barrier reef pristine. This allows us to acquire foreign reserves. And with all the foreign reserves coming into Belize, we are now at a point where we are starting to rebuild our foreign reserves. We are starting to be able to see the prices for commodities go down because we can now purchase, we can now start to import the goods we need. And with the resume of the tourism industry, things are looking better for Belize. In closing, fellow Toastmasters and guests, Belize Blue Bond was a great relief to the country of Belize as it allowed us to leverage our natural resources against our debt. We are being paid to keep the natural beauty of Belize intact. Imagine that. Someone pays you to just be you. Wouldn't that be great if it was happening for all of us? By the grace of the Almighty, it is happening for Belize, and we are thankful. Once again, the Belize Blue Bond allow us to pay our debt and to keep our natural resources intact. Toastmasters.
I have a question that may I ask?
Sure.
Toastmaster Edwards? So are you attaching this to a carbon credit or a carbon exchange? And is this connected to United Nations carbon credit initiatives? Because this is a very, very big thing in Singapore, actually, and also this is a very, very big thing internationally now. And I think that you're positioned fantastically, because I've been told for decades Belize has some of the best snorkeling on the planet.
That is correct. It is exactly attached to the carbon credit initiative in the UN. Belize is one of the first countries to have embarked on such a project. It has often been discussed in the UN, but Belize is one of the first countries to have actually went ahead with the carbon credit proposal from the UN. And this project in Belize is now being used as a case study or a blueprint for other countries around the world.
So there's probably a white paper or a Harvard Business Review study of exactly what you're talking about. It's actually very, very significant, especially to people like me who are in technology and want to use technology for the exact same purpose. So very nice.
Thank you. And now for our second presentation. Angela, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. Our second presentation this evening will be done by our very own Toastmaster, Angela. She is an avid blogger, a published author, and an English teacher. Today, her presentation will be food, drinks, and celebrations around the world. Food, drinks, and celebration around the world, Toastmaster Angela.
Hello, before I start, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes.
Yes, the thing is, I cannot see the timer. Is the timer Edward?
Yes, I am the timer.
Am I doing a 5 to 7 minutes speech?
5 to 7 presentation, correct.
Yes.
I will show you the green at 5, the yellow at 6, and the red at 7.
Thank you. Now, is there some way you can share? I'm going to pin you. Oh no, I've pinned. You've disappeared. Hold on just a moment while I pin you. Okay, you're pinned. Wonderful. I'm now ready to start. Good evening, everybody. Christmas food, drink, decorations, and celebrations around the world. Well, I have wonderful news for you. I'm going to tell you about all the things you can buy in your local supermarkets. And would you believe I can buy most of them here in Singapore? Now, if you look here, you may see Stollen, Panettone, Pandoro, Yule logs, and Noah's pudding. How many of you know all of these items? How many of you know one of them? Christmas pudding, Christmas cake. Do you know that? Right, I'm going to tell you. Right, we come on to my second slide. Christmas cake in the UK, which you can see here on the top left, is a rich fruit cake, which we have in winter because the fruit is not available, and in the olden days you could only get dried fruit. So you soaked it in rum or something similar in alcohol, put it in a cake, and then you sealed it with sweet marzipan and then hard icing on top to keep it preserved. Those are the days when you didn't eat it all in one sitting like I do now. To the right of the picture, you can see a Christmas pudding. This is a grand Christmas pudding, which has alcohol, set fire. And again, if you put alcohol in Christmas pudding, which is very similar to fruit cake, it will keep for a long time, and you can make it in the summer and keep it through till Christmas. And as it dries out, the flavors intensify. Now, because it's so calorific, which is very good in the olden days for winter, it's sometimes a bit rich for some people, so I like to have it with custard. Now, supermarkets will sell you 3 or 4 different brands of Christmas pudding and 3 or 4 different qualities, which is best. Every year or so, we buy 3 of them and try them out to see which we like, to decide whether it's worth paying extra. Every now and then, the supermarkets decide to call in an expert and produce something new, and they did the same with Christmas pudding. A famous chef called Heston Blumenthal has produced a Christmas pudding with a preserved mandarin orange in the middle of it. And when it came out the first year, these things were changing hands on eBay. The supermarkets ran out, they'd sold out. People were selling them on eBay for $100 just for a Christmas pudding, which would normally have cost you $10 or $15 in the supermarket. Now, it's no longer a surprise, no longer so special, but you can still get them and they are a feature. Now, the other thing we have in England is mince pies. Anybody know what a mince pie is? Wave if you know. Ananya, do you know a mince pie? A mince pie is a small tart. It's a proper pie. It's got a base and a top. You can see in the picture here that it has currants and probably suet and something similar and sugar in the middle of it. And it's very tasty. And it's much cheaper than either of the other 2 things. And if you go to a party, you can buy a set of 6 mince pies for £1 in a cheap supermarket, usually on offer. So going to a Toastmasters meeting, you ask to bring something, you say, I'll bring some mince pies. You could buy 4 of them and bring them along. Then, of course, we will have not a hot toddy. What we have is something more like a hot punch. And that, because it's cold in England, that's what we would drink with it. Now let me go, and that is called mulled wine. Now let me move on to the next exciting thing. The French have a Yule log cake. This is spiraled cake with chocolate in the middle, chocolate cream in the middle of the spiral, and chocolate on the outside. And if you're handy with a fork, you can make it look like a log. A lot of people will buy them, but if you're a keen cook, you could make your own log cake. That is French, but now you can get it in British supermarkets and probably in your supermarket. If you haven't looked, look for it. You can get most things, most countries now. Now, even more exciting, I will go on to the next slide. Germany. Germany, there are 3 great things you get from Germany. I'll start with the 2 you might have heard of. Far left here, you can see gingerbread men. Now, ginger was another preservative. It preserved biscuits and cakes. So you made gingerbread biscuits for Christmas, and you made them in little shapes like men and women and little characters. And you can also nowadays make them in animals, hearts, stars, moons, Christmas trees, anything you can get a stamp for. Even more fun than gingerbread men is a gingerbread house, originally based on Hansel and Gretel's chocolate houses. And if you can see this one, what they've done here is they've used little biscuits to build the balcony, and then chocolate bourbon biscuits to make the shutters. And then they've piled circular or star-shaped biscuits up in different sizes to make the trees. And then on the top, of course, on everything, you put icing to represent snow. Now, nowadays, you can buy Smarties or M&Ms, and you can use these to decorate the roof of a chocolate house. And if it's too much work for you, you can buy a ready-made kit from Wilton online. They're about $70 US, which I think is a lot of money, but sometimes the price comes down to half after Christmas. One year we bought a chocolate one, and it was a great success. Now, on to something else, which is another of my favorites, Stollen. Up here you see Stollen, and it has marzipan down the middle. This is, again, can be made in a roll with the marzipan through the middle. Look for Stollen in your local supermarket. This is my favorite. Now you know what to look for. I've got many more slides, many more foods from around the world. I could talk all night. Back to you, Edward.
I think he's on mute.
Edward, you're on
Excellent
mute.
job, Toastmaster Angela.
I'll now stop sharing.
I did not know that gingerbread was from Germany. I took it for granted that it was universal. I did not know it originated in Germany. Thanks for sharing that with us this evening.
The bad news is that most things are claimed by most countries. I mean, pavlova is claimed by Australia and New Zealand. Everything you can think of. Hummus is claimed by Greece and Turkey. Coffee is claimed as Turkish coffee and Greek coffee, same thing. Turkish delight, Greek loukumi, same thing. Dumplings, same thing. Pancakes, same thing. It's the national dish of any country you go to, is also the national dish of their neighbor, but don't tell them, you'll be in big trouble.
So true, Angela. Guys, those were the 2 manual presentations this evening, the 2 prepared presentations. We will take a 5-minute break as the evaluators complete the evaluation form, and then we will return for the final portion of our meeting, the evaluation portion.
TM, I'm going to have to go because I'm going to midnight mass here at this Angela may know this, Saint Ignatius, which is a Catholic church. I was lucky to get a one seat for the midnight mass, so I've got to leave now, but I'm
Okay.
I'm
Have you
grateful.
left us your number so we can tell you about our next meeting?
Well, would you, okay, let me just,
Can you
Let me
type
just-
it in the chat box?
yes,
Your email and your phone number for WhatsApp.
yes, I'm going to send my.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to send my Singapore number and also, let's see, my email. And very interesting stuff tonight. I'm real grateful to join and appreciate everybody's help to enlighten me. Thank everybody.
Meet every Friday, so come back next Friday.
I shall try to come back next Friday evening, and everyone, Merry Christmas.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
I've saved the chat.